Hi everybody, and thanks for watching. This video is meant to be a comprehensive guide to the Gloomhaven Fantasy Setup mod for Tabletop Simulator. I'll be explaining how to get started with this incredible mod, including tips on how to transition from a physical copy of the game. I'll also review my preferred technique and tips for updating an existing save file to the latest version of the mod. For the most part, I'll be assuming you know how to play Gloomhaven and how to use Tabletop Simulator. Please check the links in the description for various resources on both topics. Also in the description are timestamps for the various sections of this video. I'll endeavor to avoid as many spoilers as possible, and for the most part this video will examine only Scenario 1, the Black Barrow, and the 6 starting classes. Let's dive in. Chapter 1, Initial Setup. The Party Sheet. The first place to start is your party sheet. Whether you're starting fresh or moving your physical copy of Gloomhaven into Tabletop Simulator, here you can enter your party name, rep level, location, notes, and party achievements. The party member level settings at the bottom of this sheet are very important. Use the plus and minus buttons to define the level for each active member of your party, and the sheet will automatically calculate your average party level. You can then choose the difficulty level and scenario level you want to play. The scenario level that's defined here will be used during automated scenario setup and to calculate gold and bonus XP at the conclusion of a scenario. If you have inactive party members, set their level to 0 to avoid improper calculations. All input fields on this sheet can be locked and unlocked by clicking directly on the Party Sheets button. Characters. Next, we'll add characters to the game. Up to 4 player mats can be added by clicking on any of the 4 buttons at the bottom of the environment. From left to right, they represent players 1 through 4. Make sure you have the correct number of player mats for the number of players in your session. The mod's scenario setup automation uses the number of player mats to determine the correct number and type of monsters in the scenario. Infinity boxes for the 6 starting classes are available in the left side of the environment. Infinity boxes for locked classes can be found in the Locked Characters box inside the main Gloomhaven box. You can drag a character class tuck box from each Infinity box. Dropping the tuck box onto a player mat will automatically set up a new character of that class, including a vanilla attack modifier deck. You can now set up each character as desired, either starting from scratch or replicating characters from your physical game. On the character sheet, you can enter in your character's name, XP, gold, items, perks, checkmarks, and notes. There's also a notes field on the back side of each character's sheet that allows you to keep notes that are hidden from other players. If you're creating a character at a level higher than level 1, clicking on the appropriate box on the character sheet will immediately set the XP value to the threshold for that level. If applicable, you should also add any unlocked higher level ability cards to your pool of abilities and unlocked attack modifier cards to your attack modifier deck. And don't forget to shuffle it too. You can modify a character's max hit points by clicking on the health bar above the token's head and then using the arrow icons. Click the health bar again when you're done. This will also automatically update the HP tracker on your player mat. Each player has 2 card boxes. The one closest to your player mat represents your hand and will be visualized at the bottom of the Tabletop Simulator user interface by default. The other box can be used however you want, but I recommend using it for ability cards that are in your pool of available cards but are not being used in any given scenario. By default, cards in either box are not visible to other players. Personal quest cards can be found in the decks to the left of the map. Follow Gloomhaven rules for assigning personal quests, or, if you're recreating an existing character, search through the personal quest deck and drag the appropriate card over next to your character sheet. There's no scripting or automation associated with these cards, but to me, this has always seemed like the best place to put them. You can remove a player by right-clicking on the Remove Player button above a player mat. This will pack the player's character back into their tuck box. Note that depending on how much a player has modified their character, there are sometimes minor errors when subsequently unpacking a character's tuck box, and some manual reorganization might be required. A few notes on enhancements. In Gloomhaven, as soon as you've unlocked the Power of Enhancement global achievement, you have the option to enhance ability cards. Ability cards are permanently enhanced for the given class, and all future characters of that class will have the enhancement. You can enhance an ability card by using the decal tool in the left toolbar. You can also add these enhancements to their respective infinity boxes to ensure that all future characters of that class have the enhancement as well. To do this, drag a fresh tuck box from the appropriate infinity box, search through the box and grab the appropriate ability deck, either starting or advanced. Find the card you want to enhance and use the decal tool to apply the enhancement. Add the card back to the appropriate deck, and then add the deck back to the tuck box. Now, right-click on the infinity box for the class and select Reset. Drag and drop the updated tuck box onto the infinity box. New tuck boxes dragged from the infinity box will now have the enhancement applied. Items. Items are represented on the left side of the environment, just to the right of the class infinity boxes and the party sheet. Items are organized by prosperity level, as well as random reward and solo items. You can lay out any of these decks at the top of the environment by pressing the Layout Cards button next to each deck. You can recall the available cards into the Shop Offer section to represent the unlocked items that are available to buy in your game at any given time. If you're transitioning from a physical copy of the game, use your unlocked items as a reference to recreate your Shop Offer deck here. Items purchased or owned by characters can be dragged down to the appropriate section of any player mat. Any item you place in the shop area, even if you place it out of numerical order, will be automatically reorganized properly by recalling the shop offer and then laying it out again. Setting up other decks. Add the appropriate city and road decks from the main deck area to the active city and road event slots at the top of the environment. If you're starting a new game, just add city and road 1 through 30 and shuffle them. If you're transitioning from an existing physical game, use your existing city and road decks as reference to recreate them here. An important thing to note is that the reverse side of all city and road events are intentionally obscured. You can reveal an event card's outcome by right-clicking the card and under the State submenu, selecting either 2 for outcome A or 3 for outcome B. You can re-obscure both outcomes by selecting State 1 again. If you've unlocked any random dungeons, remove these cards from the random dungeon deck so you don't draw them again. If you're new to the game or just otherwise find them useful, distribute player reference cards to each player. Bless, Curse, -1, Random Monster, Random Location, and Battle Goal decks can be found here as well. The map. Scenario stickers can be added to the map by clicking on the appropriate scenario number. Clicking on a sticker's scenario number again will mark it as complete. Double-clicking the scenario number will set up the scenario in the main play space, though this is not my preferred way to do this, as we'll see later. Triple-clicking a scenario will mark it with a red X to indicate that it's not playable in campaign mode. Click anywhere at the top of the map to open a palette of all global achievements. Click on an achievement to add it to the map. Prosperity can be tracked at the bottom of the map by clicking on any of the boxes. Click here to unlock content related to Envelope B, and that's all I'll say on that matter. If you're recreating a physical copy of the game, update your map accordingly to match your physical version. Additional setup. You should now add a play area if you haven't done so already. You only need to do this once for each instance of the mod. Click the Add Play Area button to load it in. This is where you'll be playing ability cards, drawing monster attack modifier cards, adjusting HP and XP values, and working with elemental infusions. You also get small infinity stacks for all conditions, money tokens, and various trackers. There's a few other items you might want to grab from the Gloomhaven box, depending on how far you are into the game. including the quick start guide for this mod, the rule book, the scenario book, the solo scenarios book, community scenarios, damage tracker infinity stack, special conditions tracker, the town records book, retired character tracker, and sealed envelopes. Also in here is the treasure deck, a feature that's unique to this mod and something we'll look at more closely later. If you're transitioning from a physical copy of the game and want to ensure that you aren't accidentally looting treasure that you've already looted, you should refer to the end of your physical scenario book and remove the treasure cards corresponding to the treasure you've checked off. Forgotten Circles. Most of the Forgotten Circles content in this mod is located in the Forgotten Circles box and is not automatically integrated into the rest of the game. If you're playing Forgotten Circles, be sure to manually add all of the unlocked content from this box. This includes the updated teleport cards, which you can add to their respective class infinity boxes using the same process used to add enhancements as outlined earlier. As of this recording, all of the Forgotten Circles content in this mod has been updated to the second printing, with the notable exception of the scenario guide and the new supplemental scenario guide. Forgotten Circles' first printing text still appears throughout the mod. Because of the way Forgotten Circles content works in this mod, adding in the second edition text from these books will likely require a significant rework of the scripting for Forgotten Circles scenarios. Fortunately, PDFs of the second printing books are available for free at the Google Drive link in the description and can even be manually imported into Tabletop Simulator for your reference. Chapter 2. Scenario Setup and Gameplay. Setting up a scenario. Now let's look at setting up and playing a scenario. This is where this mod really shines. Much of the often tedious process of setting up and later resolving a Gloomhaven scenario is automated thanks to some really brilliant scripting. To get started, you'll want to find the mod interface menu at the top of the screen. Note that this menu can be collapsed by clicking on the small arrow icon. You'll also notice the camera controls button is here, which allows you to quickly move your camera between different parts of the environment, which is very handy. Click on the Game Setup button to begin setting up your scenario. If there's a scenario already loaded into the main play space, you'll want to make sure that you clear everything out first. Click the Delete Map, and then under Monster Setup, delete monsters. Be very careful here, as the mod will delete absolutely everything in the highlighted spaces. It's not always easy to recover content that you've accidentally deleted. With a clear play space, you're ready to begin. Use the slider to select the scenario you want to play. Here you can specify hidden rooms or revealed rooms. Hidden rooms will load in map tiles only as new doors are opened. Revealed rooms will set up all map tiles in the scenario, but monsters and other overlays will not be revealed until the door for each room is opened. You can also specify if you'd prefer monsters to be represented as hexes or standees. I strongly recommend standees, as will become apparent soon. At this point, you should double check the scenario level that's been defined on your party sheet. As I explained earlier, this is the scenario level that will be used in the automated setup. Go ahead and click Create Map. And bingo, your map and monsters are ready to go. You should see that the monster level on the stat cards matches the level specified on your party sheet. If it doesn't, something went wrong and you should try again. You'll notice that 2 battle goals are also dealt to each player. If the scenario book is out, you'll also notice that it now displays the page for the chosen scenario. From here, of course, you should follow all Gloomhaven rules related to scenario setup and prepare accordingly. When you're ready, place your characters on the specified starting hexes. You can clear the start indicators by clicking any of the start buttons. Starting a round. Click on the Battle Interface button. When playing with other players, each player will have a battle interface window to control their specific character. In this case, I'm playing alone, so I'm going to check the solo mode box, which allows me to control all of the active characters. I'm also going to change my player color to black, so no hands or card boxes are hidden from me. Move your 2 chosen ability cards to the appropriate slot for each player in the play area. The slot on the left with a solid outline represents your leading card, which will define your character's initiative for the round. You can quickly move cards into each slot by cursoring over your desired card and pressing the 1 key and 2 key on your number pad to move them into the left and right slots, respectively. Note, you can rebind these actions in Tabletop Simulator if your keyboard doesn't have a number pad. With your cards in position, click the Start Round button to begin. All ability cards are now revealed for all characters and monsters currently on the map. In the upper left corner of your screen, you'll see another excellent feature of this mod, the Initiative Tracker. This allows you to see the initiative value for each character and monster type in order, and to see the actions for each monster type for the round. A typical round. Let's now play this round out. In this case, our Brute goes first. We'll have him use the bottom of his first card to move 2. We can now click the Discard button to instantly move this card to the Brute's discard pile. We'll now have him use his Leaping Cleave to attack both adjacent bandit guards. We'll click the Draw Attack modifier for P1 button. Again, this would simply say Draw Attack modifier if I was only controlling one character. He draws a 0 and deals 3 damage to the first bandit. We can use the plus and minus buttons on the bandit's standee to remove its hit points. No need to use damage tokens. He draws a second attack modifier for the elite bandit and gets a +1. He would normally deal 4 damage, but we can see here that the bandit has a shield 1 icon under its health bar. One of the benefits of using monster standees is that inherent monster abilities like shield, retaliate, poison, wound, etc. are displayed here. Leaping Cleave also gives our Brute 1 XP, which we can add by clicking on the XP Plus button for player 1. You'll see the increase reflected on the XP tracker on the player mat. We'll discard Leaping Cleave and click on the Brute in the initiative order to indicate his turn is over. Next up is our Spellweaver. We'll have her move 1, we'll discard that card, and then we'll attack all 3 bandits with fire orbs. Classic. Let's go big here and use our minor power potion to add +1 to the whole attack action. We'll flip the card over to indicate that it's consumed. We'll draw 3 attack modifiers, 1 for each bandit left to right. With the modifiers, we do 5 damage to bandit 2, 4 damage to bandit 1, the elite, and 2 damage to bandit 3. We'll also add 3 XP to the Spellweaver. This ability also adds a fire infusion, so we'll click the Create Fire button in the play area to move fire to the strong column. This was a loss ability, so we'll click the Loss button to move the card to the Spellweaver's loss pile and mark her turn as over. Next up in the order is the Bandit Guards. Here we can see how the mod's presentation makes moving through the monster turns much faster. We can see the base stats for each monster directly above their health bars without having to refer to their stat sheet. We can see that the normal bandits have a base move of 3 and a base attack of 2, while the elite has a base move of 2 and a base attack of 3. If a monster can fly, you'll see the boot icon replaced with a wings icon. By clicking on the small arrow button to the right of the Bandit Guard button in the initiative tracker, we can see their action for the round without having to refer to their ability deck. The elite goes first. We'll draw an attack modifier from the monster attack modifier deck and get a +1. Note, you can draw cards from this deck using the 3 key on your number pad as well. This would normally cause the Brute 4 damage, but his Heater Shield gives him 1 shield, so it's down to 3. We'll rotate the item to indicate it's spent. We can use the plus and minus buttons either on the Brute's minifigure or the Player 1 section of the play area to adjust its health. His new HP level is reflected both in the health bar above his head and the HP tracker on the player mat. The bandits also strengthen themselves this turn. We can drag a strengthen token from the infinity stacks above the play area, and it will display an indicator above each figure. Condition indicators can be cleared by simply clicking on them again. Note, condition indicators do not auto-expire. We'll fast forward here as the other two bandits proceed with their turns as well, and we'll mark it complete in the initiative tracker. We'll now click the End Round button to indicate that the round is over. A bunch of other excellent automations happen when you click the End Round button. Any active infusions move one column to the left. Any decks that drew cards that have a shuffle symbol will be automatically shuffled. And any drawn bless or curse cards will automatically be removed and returned to their respective decks to the right of the play space. Additional gameplay functions. That's the general flow of a round in this mod. Let's look at a few other things you'll want to know about when playing a scenario. You can indicate that a character will perform a long rest by clicking the long rest button in the battle interface. That character's initiative will be set to 99 for the round. You can sort your hand by ascending initiative value by clicking the Sort Hand button in the battle interface. When a monster's HP reaches 0, a defeat button will be displayed on their health bar. Clicking defeat will remove the monster standee and automatically drop a coin token. Nice. If your character ends its turn while standing on a coin, the coin will be automatically looted and placed on the character's character mat. Double nice. As mentioned earlier, you officially mark your character's turn as being complete by clicking on its class name in the initiative tracker. To open a door, click on the Open button on a door hex, and then click it again within 2 seconds to reveal the next room. Scenario aid tokens are notably not part of the automated setup for scenarios. Pay attention to the scenario book and make note of where scenario aid tokens should be placed. You can drag scenario aid tokens from their infinity stack above the play area. Right-click on the scenario aid token and use the State submenu to change it to the appropriate number or letter. You may need to move or remove locked overlays like traps. To unlock an object, right-click it, select the Toggle submenu, and uncheck Locked. Summon tokens and summon tracker tokens can be pulled from each player mat. Note that they are not infinity stacks. Character token trackers can be pulled from infinity stacks on each player mat. When a monster is summoned or spawned, they should not drop a coin when defeated as per the rules. You can drop a summon/spawn indicator onto a monster to mark them as such and prevent them from automatically dropping a coin when defeated. When looting a numbered treasure tile, click the treasure number button to draw the corresponding treasure card from the treasure deck. Right-click the treasure card and change it to State 2 to reveal the treasure. If a character becomes exhausted during a scenario, set the character's HP to 0. This will prevent the scripting from requiring an initiative value for that character, and the character will not appear in the initiative tracker for the rest of the scenario. Ending a scenario. When you've completed a scenario, you'll want to open the game setup window once again. If you've successfully completed the scenario, click the Scenario 1 button. The following excellent automations will occur. All attack modifier decks will be shuffled. Any remaining Curse and Bless cards will be removed from attack modifier decks and returned to their respective decks to the right of the play space. Any character ability cards in the play area slots, active slots, a discard pile, or lost pile will be returned to their proper hand. Any spent or consumed items in slots in a player mat will be rotated and or flipped back to their standard positions. All character tokens will be moved back to their respective character mats. All characters will be set back to their max HP. All accumulated XP, as tracked on the player mat, and bonus XP based on the scenario level, will be added to the character sheets of each character. Any accumulated coin tokens that are on a character mat will be converted to gold based on the scenario level and added to the character sheet of each character. If you lose a scenario, click the Scenario Lost button. All of the automations I just mentioned will still happen, except that bonus XP will not be applied. There's a few post-scenario items that might require manual cleanup. If you did win, Evaluate character battle goals and add check marks to character sheets as appropriate. In any case, return battle goal cards to the battle goal deck and shuffle it. If you're playing the scenario in campaign mode, make record of and take the necessary action for scenario awards like prosperity, reputation, gold, items, and global and party achievements. Mark the scenario as complete on the map and reveal any unlocked scenarios on the map as well. If -1 cards were added to any attack modifier deck as a scenario effect, manually remove these cards and return them to the player -1 deck. Clear any remaining active conditions on character tokens. Chapter 3. Other miscellaneous settings, features, and tips. As I mentioned earlier, the Solo Scenarios book can be found in the Gloomhaven box. To launch a solo scenario, right-click on the Solo Scenario book and select State 2 to display the table of contents. Click on the appropriate icon for any given class to launch its solo scenario. Spoilers, obviously. It's of course not possible for every single possible scenario in Gloomhaven to be scripted in this mod. The community campaigns, random scenarios, and other custom scenarios you may want to run will require manual setup. To get started with manual setup, look in the Gloomhaven box and pull out the map tiles and overlays bag. Click the place button to spawn a series of infinity bags that will contain all of the map tiles and overlay tiles required to set up a scenario manually. Having these bags available for scripted scenarios is useful too, as sometimes you'll need to place new overlays such as traps. For manual setup, you'll also want to specify the proper hex orientation for the scenario you're playing. Click the Options button at the top of the Tabletop Simulator interface, and then select Grid. Choose between the hex horizontal and hex vertical options. To manually spawn monsters, go to the Game Setup window and click Monster Setup. Here you can specify the level of the monster you want to spawn, the monster type, standee versus hex setup, and you can also make it elite. Also note that by clicking on the health bar of any monster, set up manually or automatically, you can change the monster to normal or elite, change its max HP, or change its monster number. Users of the 1.0 version of this mod will recall that there were previously music orbs that allowed you to play a curated playlist of fantasy music. This music is still available using the new integrated Tabletop Simulator music player. You can import your own music as well. The table art and color can be changed using the 7, 8, and 9 keys on your number pad. I strongly recommend hanging on to any of the content that you're instructed to remove from Gloomhaven, such as city and rogue cards, and so forth. I like to keep these items in a bag to keep things uncluttered. I find this helps for the purposes of record keeping. It's also a good idea in the physical game as well, particularly if your game lasts years like mine did. This mod's obviously a piece of workshop content hosted on a service that you, as a player, have no direct control over. Anything could go wrong with a new update that could seriously break the mod, not to mention issues with your local machine that could cause your save file to be corrupted. While this is generally unlikely and it's never happened to me personally, I still strongly recommend keeping records of any changes you make to your game world outside of Tabletop Simulator. This could be using a physical copy of the game like I do, or in some cloud document. This is a particularly good idea if you plan to move back to a physical gameplay environment at some point in the future. It's not super difficult to accidentally delete something in Tabletop Simulator. If this happens, you have a few options. If you catch it quickly, you can use the rewind time function. If the asset exists in an infinity box, you could pull out a new version. You may also be able to revert to an autosave, which Tabletop Simulator creates fairly regularly. Otherwise, you can always load a vanilla version of the mod and use either the copy and paste function or the save object function, more on that shortly, to move the missing asset back to your save. This mod has some handy global options you can control using Tabletop Simulator's notebook feature. Round tracker. Specify whether or not the round tracker counts up or down, and whether or not the tracker token on the element infusion board moves automatically. Start round options. Specify whether or not ability cards played in the play area are flipped when starting a round. I suggest setting this to no if you're playing solo. Auto setup. Specify whether to use the new or old auto setup system. The new is perhaps obviously strongly recommended. Whether or not battle goals are dealt, how scenario pages are displayed, and if you want 3D models to be overlaid on top of traps, obstacles, and other overlay tiles. This is a cool feature, but there's no way to delete 3D models, at least that I could find, which can be a problem for triggered traps in similar situations. Broadcast options. Specify how HP changes are displayed in the global chat. Win-lose options. Specify whether or not XP and gold calculations are modified by the solo/open information rules variant. Chapter 4. Updating the game. As with most Tabletop Simulator workshop content, updating your game state to the latest version of the mod is not a particularly straightforward process. Whenever Steam downloads a new version of the mod, your existing saves will not update automatically and will load the version of the mod that was installed when the game was last saved. Follow these instructions to transfer your game state into the latest version of the mod. Step 1. Evaluate what you should transfer from your existing save to the new version. It's important to pay attention to what has been updated with any new version of the mod. You don't want to bring an old asset over that overwrites the new update and causes new scripting to not work properly. You can view the mod's changelog at the link in the description. To minimize the risk of causing problems, I strongly recommend only transferring the items that you've actually modified as part of your game. For most players, this will include the game map, the personal quest deck, random dungeon deck, city and road decks, both active and inactive, active characters, item decks, infinity boxes with enhanced or updated ability cards, your party sheet, your treasure deck, and any other record-keeping assets. Again, it's very important to pay attention and to do some testing when making this evaluation. In some cases, you'll have to do some manual updating. For example, the latest version of the mod, as of this recording, fixed a bug that caused character sheets to be cleared out when they were repacked. To fix this bug, all character classes in the game had to be re-scripted. This meant that transferring your existing character and character infinity boxes to the new version of the mod would carry over the same bug. To avoid this, characters and character infinity boxes with enhancements or other updates needed to be manually recreated in the new version. Screenshots are your friend. Step 2. Cleanup. There seems to be a cap on the number of individual items that can be transferred during this process. To avoid this issue, I recommend cleaning up as much as possible. Delete any loaded scenario map, delete any loaded monsters, recall map tiles and overlay infinity bags if they're out, repack any active characters, recall your shop offer or any other items at the top of the environment, and place everything you want to bring over in a visible place. Step 3. Select what you want to transfer. Now we'll select all of the objects we want to transfer to the new version of the mod. I suggest you begin by zooming the camera way out and performing a lasso selection of all visible objects. Objects that are selected will now be highlighted in yellow. Note that objects that are locked will not be part of this selection. You can add them to the selection by control-clicking them. Conversely, you can remove objects from the selection by control-clicking them as well. Step 4. Save objects and your game. With your selection made, right-click on any selected object and select Save Object. You're now effectively saving every selected object as a bundled saved object. You'll be prompted to give this new saved object a name. We'll call it gamestate and the date. We'll also make a new save and call it transfer. Step 5. Prepare the new version of the mod. Load the latest version of the vanilla mod from the Games menu. You'll now want to manually select everything that we selected in the previous version of the mod and included in our saved object. You're largely performing the same operation again, except this time we'll be deleting these objects so that our saved objects can replace them. Step 6. Spawn in your old stuff. Go to the Objects menu, then Saved Objects, and find the saved object we created earlier. Click on the 3 dots icon for the saved object and select Spawn. Awesome. Your stuff's back. You might need to do a bit of extra cleanup, such as deleting unmodified versions of objects that come in the game box, like tracking sheets and the treasure deck. Step 7. Add stickers. The one thing that doesn't transfer in this process are stickers that are added to your game map. Of course, you can add them back manually, but there's a slightly less tedious method. Go to the Games menu and find the transfer save we created earlier. Click on the 3 dots icon and click Expand. You might have to wait a little bit here for a window to load. This window will display every visible asset in your save. By moving to the last page of this window, you should be able to find your stickers. You can now move through each page and spawn your stickers back onto the map. Marks made to indicate a scenario is complete or blocked will be maintained. Step 8. Save and test. Okay, you should be done. Save your game and do a little testing to make sure everything works as expected, especially anything that was explicitly updated in the new version. Thanks for watching this video and to everyone who subscribed to my channel. I hope you find this video useful for playing Gloomhaven during the pandemic or any situation where you're playing remotely. Of course, all the credit in the world goes to Gabriel M. and Kajan, who made this wonderful mod, as well as the many other scripters and artists who've also contributed. Also thanks to the makers of Tabletop Simulator, Berserk Games, and of course, a very special thanks to Isaac Childress for creating Gloomhaven. If you don't own a physical copy of Gloomhaven, you should absolutely go buy one. It's worth it. Thanks again for watching, and take care.